Well, welcome to Hopelahoma. We are so excited that you're all here with us. We're super excited. Lance Lang is here with us.
Man, I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for being willing to come and share your story of hope.
For sure.
Before we get started, Lance, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you've been doing, and the work that you do through Hope is Alive.
Sure thing. Well, I'm pumped to be on anything that's about hope, and especially in Oklahoma. So what a great combination. Thrilled to be here. My name's Lance Lang. I'm the founder of an organization called Hope is Alive. And what we do is we help recovering drug addicts and alcoholics and their families walk through the journey of recovery. And we do that through 18 homes now, a bunch in Oklahoma and other homes in other places. I'll run it down real quick. We've got homes in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas, Weatherford, Oklahoma, and all the way out in Morehead City, North Carolina. So that's kind of the primary focus of what we do. We have 165 recovering addicts in our homes, but we also have support groups for families. And I just want to mention that during this time, because there's a lot of moms and dads and brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles that might begin to see some folks struggling in their lives. And our Finding Hope support groups now meet online. And it's a great way to get plugged in with some folks that might be needing some hope and help like you are. Last week, Justin, we saw 4 brand new people show up on an online support group, which kind of blows my mind. It's hard enough to walk into a room, a support group room, an AA room, any of that. And so to walk into an online version of that for the very first time, I thought that was really cool. And so those are kind of the 2 main things that Hope is Alive does, the homes and the support groups.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. As you know, we share a background, a similarity in that we've both had lives of addiction.
Yep.
And we've both seen rescue in the same way. Could you tell everyone a little bit about what's different about your program? Because there's programs all over the country that do this, and most of them have a pretty low percentage of people that actually survive and come out clean. And your program, on the other hand, has the radically opposite numbers and trajectory and outcomes. And so could you just share a little bit about why you do what you do, how that works, and why you're seeing the results you guys are seeing in particular?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it starts from a calling. And so just a little background, as Justin, you alluded to, I was a 50 pill a day opiate addict for many, many years of my life. And so that was destructive, as you can imagine, in every area. And so when I got clean, I began to see that there were folks coming out of treatment centers just like me, but they were really just getting a bed and a drug test, if you will. There was programs, but that was really all it was providing. They would stay for 2 or 3 months. They'd start looking better, sounding better. Mom and dad or wife, husband would trust them again. And then they'd go back and watch that same spiral kind of slowly start again. And that's happened. And unfortunately, it happens to a lot of people. So not that we had any ingenious plan. All I knew is that I felt like if we could provide them a more structured community that would holistically treat them financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, professionally, that would really give them a whole healed, radically restored life, a foundation to really have a life worth living. And when your life is worth living, I think that you take care of yourself better. You choose to stay clean and sober. You surround yourself with the right people. And so kind of from that crux vision is what we've done to build our program. And so what's different about it is we have beautiful homes. First off, they're amazing. People want to live there. They're in nice areas of all the towns that we're in. Secondly, we keep folks on average for about 19 months right now, which is pretty unprecedented in this world that we're in. And so for somebody to commit that long of a period of time for them, obviously that helps them build a foundation much stronger than you would if you stay somewhere for a few weeks or a few months. And so it also allows you to build connection and community. And it's one of the kind of the phrases that I'm using a lot right now. Connection and community is what kills chaos. And we need that in our world right now, but certainly drug addicts and alcoholics need it. And so the longer you're connected with community, the more sticky it is, the more chances you are to have a long-term sobriety. And so that therefore some of the success rate that we're seeing. There's also a host of other things that we do that kind of gets in the weeds a little bit, but I think the end of the day, the secret sauce, the Chick-fil-A sauce, if you will, of Hope is Alive is our culture. And it's a strong culture of celebration, that sobriety's fun, that it can be something that will change your life, that you can find your calling in it. All those things I think help radically change people's lives.
That's awesome. Well, as you know, there's ups and downs in that life, and there's ups and downs in our life.
Mhm.
Technically, there's ups and downs right now,
Yeah.
um, and so it's a little wild. Sometimes we're hopeful, and sometimes we're fearful, and it's in days like this, it's really difficult to see hope for the future for a lot of our friends, and some days even for us, right? And so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your story and tell us how hope has played a part, starting kind of from the beginning to, getting to where you're at now.
Do you think it's corny that the word hope is right over my shoulder?
I love it that you're a hope dealer, dude. What? Like,
Honestly, that was not purposeful. I walked into this room 2 weeks ago to start officing out of here, and there was that sign. I just kept it up there. But hope is something that's very obviously important to me. It's everything about what we do, but it's really pretty simple. It's just something that we're looking forward to. It's just something that's coming down the road, and I'm the kind of guy that needs to have something to look forward to. And so it's pretty simple. And so early on, when I had nothing, and no financial foundation, no friends around me, hadn't seen my family in forever, devastation in every relationship, physically, these pills, no spiritual, nothing. The hope was that my life could change. And so it was small and incremental changes, but every day I'd see a little bit more hope in one area or the next, and it would kind of get me through. And it sounds very cliche, but I believe for folks like me and you and other people that have struggled in different ways, the hope really does pull you through one day at a time. And that's really all that you have. It's not hope that, in 3 months things are going to get better. It's just hope that maybe I can get through this afternoon, and that pulls me through. And to your point earlier about ups and downs, I rode a roller coaster yesterday. I mean, of emotion. I was struggling, as I mentioned to you before we jumped on here, and I needed some hope. And so for me, I found hope through calling my sponsor, and I'm kind of getting on a sidebar here, but sometimes you have to have somebody else that's going to show you the hope that you need to get through the next afternoon. And so I had to call a mentor, if you will, if you're in the AA program, a sponsor for me, and he gave me some hope. He also challenged me and told me to, go do this and go do that, and that really helped me as well. But hope plays a real critical role in the life of somebody recovering. But I really believe in this time we're all trying to recover from the trauma of this pandemic, and so every day we're going to have to cling to different bits and pieces of hope, and hopefully that'll help folks get through.
that's amazing, Lance. Really, really love that. Speaking of, there's days right now that have been hard for us. There's days in the past that have been much harder than the ones we're in today. And if you were to isolate and think about one of your hardest days, and I was asked this question last week, and it's a difficult question. But what I'd like to hear from you, and what our viewers really probably need to hear, is what was it looking like on one of your worst days, and what were some of the lessons that you learned on the backside of that event?
Well, I think my intervention, as weird as that sounds, was probably one of the lowest points. It sounds like it could be a hopeful event, and eventually it was. But I'll tell you, kind of just a real quick story. My uncle was my boss, and so he gave me a lot of freedom and responsibility, and way too much money. But he also held the money in his hands, which for somebody that's addicted to drugs, it's a very scary thing. So when he knocked on my door, it was April 6, 2011, in my office, and I was literally high when he knocked on the door. And he pulled me into his office, and he kind of, gave me the truth for the first time. You're a liar, you're a cheater, you're a thief. I mean, he read me the riot act and had my back against the wall. I had no real choice in the moment other than to kind of begin to confess some things. And I do believe that looking back on it, confession breaks the chains. And so if somebody's struggling today, kind of reaching out and confessing some things, letting some things out into the air, out into the atmosphere, if you will, does help begin to relieve yourself of some shame and some guilt. And as I began to do that, what I found was interesting. First off, I was scared to death just to tell somebody what I was struggling with. And I was mainly because I didn't know if I was really going to be able to quit.
Mm.
And, you know, I had wanted to quit for years. You get this. I mean, it long since, you know, had its fun days. It wasn't fun. I was in bondage to this physically. I couldn't go through hours without my body going into convulsions and, you know, sweats and freezing cold and all the withdrawal symptoms. So I was really scared to admit what was going on in my life. And then I was really scared of what my life would eventually look like. And looking back, what I had to realize in that moment is I had to ask for help, number one, and I had to actually trust somebody that they knew a better path than I knew. And what happened is my uncle got me connected to an individual here in our community. And that gentleman told me what my next steps were going to be. And he told me I needed to go take 90 days of my life to go and work on this issue. And I'll just want somebody to know this that's maybe watching this. 90 days seems like an unbelievable time to commit yourself to changing. But isn't that exactly kind of what we're living through right now?
Yeah.
Where we are stuck in this place and we really only have the mirror to look at to self-reflect on what we're struggling with, what's going on with us, where do we need to grow. And I had that opportunity in just a few weeks after that intervention. And that 90-day period changed my life forever, changed everything about me, every single aspect of my life. And yesterday it hit me that what I'm having to figure out now and new rhythms in my day-to-day life, new hopes, new creative outlets is not that much different from my time in treatment. When I was isolated, I was forced to follow a certain routine. I couldn't leave where I was. I had to get to know the people that were around me. And right now that's just my wife. And so we're really getting to know each other. But I just would say that, you know, from our darkest days can be our greatest hopes. And it's very cliche, but it's so true. I mean, it really changed my life. And this might be kind of a treatment moment for a lot of people as they're isolated and trying to work through some things. Use this as an opportunity. I've been telling our residents, choose to see this as an opportunity, not as an obstacle. And start something new. Dig into some areas you haven't dug into. Find a new hobby. Get out and push yourself. There's a lot of ways that you can grow through this, but hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, that's great, man. You know, one of the things you're pointing out is these formative relationships of trust being the a necessary ingredient, even when you're isolated,
Yep.
having some of that. And so what would you say to someone about being vulnerable and transparent, because that's what you're describing, with someone, inviting them into this for the first time? Maybe they're scared. Maybe they are feeling all those things that you're feeling leading up to your intervention, and no one's intervening, right?
Yes.
People are just letting them do what they want. People are just letting them kind of spiral down. What would you say to someone about that formative relationship of trust, that vulnerability and transparency, and how to do that right now in a space where they're kind of quarantined, whether they like it or not?
Well, first off, I want folks to know that, you know, a lot of people around me allowed me to continue to do things for many, many years. So that April 6th day was the kind of the day that everything overflowed, the straw that broke the camel's back. And so this might be that hope for you in this moment, for you or somebody that you love. And the first thing I would tell you is you are worthy enough to reach out for help, and your life matters enough for you to reach out for help. Your family around you matters enough. Your future is important enough for you to reach out to ask for help. You are not alone in the middle of this pandemic. There are a lot of people that are struggling, but there's a lot of people that have hope and resources that want to help you on the other side. And Justin, if I could, I'd just like to give a number just in case folks want to reach out right now to our hope line. And this is folks that are on our team that are helping families kind of walk through the murky waters of addiction every day. And so that number, you write it down right now, is 1-844-3-HOPE-NOW. 1-844-3-HOPE-NOW. So to answer your question, first off, reach out for help. There's a great way to do that. And number two, a lot of the folks that are watching this here in the Bible Belt of Hopelahoma have some group that they're most likely a part of. Now, what I want to remind people is you need to continue to try to do the things that you were doing, even inside the confines of the pandemic and the quarantine. What do I mean by that? You got to get connected in a group where you can vulnerably share. So I got up this morning, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I got into an AA meeting at 7 a.m. this morning. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do it, but I needed to be around other people that were like me, where I could vulnerably and transparently share my stuff. Because if I don't have that, man, I'm not where I need to be. And so if there's folks that are out there that know that they're not where they need to be, connect with your groups, connect with your church, get on Zoom. It's free. There's ways that you can talk with people. But the last place you need to be is isolated, where you're living your own guilt and shame and not connecting with people transparently.
Love it. So you're talking about when times are difficult. It's okay. Just let him out. Sorry, my dog is freaking out.
Oh, it's all good.
We're talking about there being some difficult times. And so our minds go a million different places. We hear a million different voices. We get all this input that we've either allowed over time to become part of our coping mechanisms or the way that we deal with things. But on this side of all of those events, you now have tools that you use when things are difficult. You have anchor points that you can hang on to when it seems like the sky literally is falling and you don't know what to do next. Could you share with our friends kind of like what do you do in those difficult times? What are those anchor points, and how have those changed what hope looks like in your life?
Absolutely. Well, first off, for me, spiritually speaking, I've got to remind myself that who the Son sets free is free indeed. And not going to start preaching at you, but first off, I've got to remind myself that I'm free and that I'm not who I used to be. I still could have some tendencies, like I used to have. I can still have some character defects like I used to have, but I'm a new person. I'm a new creation. And that means I do have coping skills and I do have methods for me to overcome. And the biggest thing for me, and this is what I'll preach till the day I die, is all about serving other people. When you're stuck in your own stuff, and that's resentment and that's bitterness, and you're lashing out at somebody in your head all day long, and you can't stand this person, and you're angry, and you haven't smiled in 2 days, that means you have not been serving anyone but yourself. And that's harsh, but it's true. And I'm in the middle of that a lot of times. And so I've got to flip the script on that, change my perspective, my posture, and begin to look out and serve. And I know this, when I'm in a posture of serving other people, I'm always hopeful. I'm always joyful. And it's because I see the impact on other people's lives of what I've been through. It reminds me that what I went through had purpose, and I can use it for other folks. And it allows me to have that forward lean, forward posture of helping other people. So now what does that look like? Well, a lot of people need a phone call. A lot of people need a text message. Do this in a safe way, but some folks could use some food on their doorstep. You can still write a thank you note or a card. You can jump on a video and encourage somebody. There's a lot of ways that you can serve people. And I think this is going to really test who we are as people during this time. And are we outwardly focused folks? And if we can do that, I think we can maintain hope throughout this.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I find that same thing is true for me. That anytime we leverage what we have for the benefit and blessing of the people around us, instead of internally focusing and serving ourselves,
Yeah.
It always brings hope and almost always removes tension.
Totally.
And the only time we ever see real authentic power ever is when someone is doing that same thing, when they leverage what they have for someone else,
Exactly.
for themselves. So you guys do this for folks, men and women all over the country in your homes. Take a break for a second talking about yourself. What are some stories? Because you guys do a great job of collecting and telling these stories as people start to emerge from their old life into their new life and start to believe they are this new thing that you were talking about, not this old thing that they used to be. Can you just maybe give us one or two stories that really stick out to you as it relates to what hope looks like in recovery from addiction?
Yeah, I could tell you stories all day long. I'm trying to think of which one I want to tell you. I'll tell you one male and one female. And so I got a guy out in Weatherford. We have a guy out in Weatherford, Oklahoma, who just transitioned from a correctional facility and was there way longer than he should have been, by the way. But he transitioned out. and just was surrounded by a lot of darkness, had not seen his son in many, many years. And this guy was a stud wrestler, and his son's about 16. And we've got this image where dad, before all the quarantine, got to go and cheer on his son at his wrestling match after not seeing him for years and years being locked up. Not only is the father clean and sober now and changing his life and has a spiritual relationship with God, but we're getting to watch him now re-engage in his son's life. And get this, Justin, at 16, how critical of a time for this young man to have his dad now be able to come back into his life, be on the sidelines, cheering him on. So the son goes to the wrestling match. I'll tell you the story. He's not supposed to win any matches. He wins match after match after match, ends up in the last match, wins it, looks up at his dad and said, "That was for you, Dad."
Dang.
I mean, just unbelievable.
That's like a Disney movie.
It really was, man. I just cried and cried as I kind of watched it through pictures on my phone. And that's a young man out in Weatherford, Oklahoma. I'll tell you another story yesterday, also of what you can do through serving other people. This weekend, had a guy, I'm going to back up and pull this into all the things we talked about. So a guy in a small group with me who lives in Tulsa, who we've been doing a lot of small groups through this, wanted to serve one of our residents, had a very pretty new Lexus that they were just not using anymore and wanted to give it away. Asked me, "Hey, is there somebody in your organization that could use a new car? I don't want to be noticed. I don't want to be noticed. I don't want my name anywhere." I said, "Sure." We set it all up as a young lady who has been praying through, and on her God goal, we do goals every quarter. We have a goal at the bottom that says God goal is a new vehicle. She's been saving her funds. Well, Sunday, the gentleman got to pull up in the brand new car. He spent hundreds of his own dollars getting it ready. We filmed the whole thing. It's going to be on our social media. It's beautiful. But Jordan, the girl in Tulsa, walks out, and there's her brand new car. And that's just, a story of somebody that has been working really hard that we get to bless. And I hope is alive. We just believe that we want to give and give and give and give because these folks are worthy of it. And on the top of that, seeing a gentleman that's stuck in the quarantine, trying to find ways he can serve other people. And it's a beautiful story.
That's so awesome. So there's probably people listening right now that tuned in specifically because of the Hopelahoma issue and the concert series and all the amazing things that they're communicating. But there may be one or two people that logged in because they actually need hope.
Yeah.
And they're in their darkest day. And they're thinking, that there is no hope. And if you were to be able to articulate for that group of people that may be listening, that this is like the end for them. They're like, I don't know if I got one more day left.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. What would you say to them, and what would you encourage them to do?
I would say your life is worth more than you can ever imagine. And the people around you love you more than you'll ever know. And that today, it simply doesn't have to, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what step 10 is or step 20 is. Right now, all you really need to do is be willing to raise your hand and say, I just need a little bit of help. I just need a little bit of guidance. And I think if you can get to that place where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want just an inkling of something new, just something small, I believe that spiritually speaking, God will use that and he'll honor that obedience and that faith that you're having. And like I said earlier, there's people out there that really, really, really want to help. Nothing is more life-giving to me than to be able to talk to somebody that's on the edge of sobriety and helping encourage them and giving them the hope and momentum to take that step into this life. I'll tell you over and over and over again, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. Every single day, it's worth it. And there's no life quite like it. And you can do this. You really, really can. I think people need to understand you can do this. 50 pills a day. I was freaked out about how do I medically, physically going to overcome withdrawal. You can do it. There's places that'll help you, and we can guide you to get there. You can do this. Your family member can do it. And if they're not quite ready yet, I want you to know, mom and dad, there's places where you can start getting help. And as you get healthy and you learn things, I promise you, your son or your daughter or your addicted loved one will eventually come around. I've seen it 100 times. There's help and hope out there. Just reach out today.
That's so great, man. Thank you so much. I got one more question.
Okay.
Before I ask it, I just want to remind everyone once again, Hopeohoma is doing this to support some local nonprofits around the city that are doing amazing work. People like Restore OKC,
Yes.
Regional Food Bank, and many others. And so we want you to actually click on the link, go to the website, and buy one T-shirt for yourself. Maybe buy a couple more for some friends, and share the love of Hopeohoma. So before you log off of this today, before you log out, click on the link and buy a couple of shirts, one for you and one for a friend. And let's support these great organizations that are doing amazing work all over our city. And so, Lance, I know you would agree with me that we need to support these groups that are doing that important work, especially in these times
Mm-hmm.
when there's so much that's needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, as a nonprofit leader, this is such a challenging time. But hey, there's no better state to be a part of than Oklahoma. Such a giving community. Let's do this. Let's rally around it. Let's go buy some swag and help some folks. Jump on their website, send them $10, send them $20, $100. Nothing's more powerful than be a monthly partner for these other groups.
Yeah.
So jump in there, give $20 a month. You have no idea what a gift right now can do for an organization, not just financially, but through momentum and the power of momentum that will give them hope to continue to do what they're doing and serve the people that they're serving every day. So let's make it happen.
That's it, man. Lance, last question, and then we'll bid you adieu. I miss seeing you in person, by the way. I miss hugging your neck.
I know.
With you. I look forward to doing that again one day soon, hopefully.
I do too. I need some of that coffee down there.
Yeah, me too. So last question, and just kind of as the coup de grace, you're a self-proclaimed, self-professed hope dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Wear a shirt that says hope dealer as you strut around town, and I love it. So could you just, as a synopsis, kind of sum all this up for us? How has hope changed your life?
Absolutely. Well, first off, for me, I'd have to say my hope is in Jesus. And so my relationship with my Heavenly Father is what gives me hope every day. And what it does is it allows me to understand that there's a God above that loves me just the way that I am. And that self-love and love from the Heavenly Father is truly what allows me to have hope that my life can be different. And even though I might struggle today in different ways, I have hope that tomorrow I can change. And so I want to encourage everybody watching. There is hope in front of you. You got to keep walking. You got to keep talking even when you don't feel like it. You got to say yes to new opportunities. I love this phrase, you never know what lies on the other side of a yes. That is the story of my life. When people around you are asking for something, step into it with an expectant yes. Be hopeful that your future can change. And remember this, Ephesians 3:20 says that God can do anything, well beyond anything you can imagine, immeasurably, exceedingly abundantly beyond anything that you could ever ask or imagine. My life is proof of an Ephesians 3:20 God. He can do anything in this world that he wants to do, and that includes changing your life.
That's it, man. That's perfect. Well, that's not just rhetoric, just so y'all know. This guy walks that out every day, and I can vouch for that. So,
Thanks,
Lance,
bro.
love you, homeboy.
Love you a ton, man.
Appreciate you taking the time to do this, buddy.
Absolutely. Anytime. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one. Peace.